Sweden's week at our global table adventure. This is a really fun week. We go up to the northern reaches of Sweden, which is really fun on a week where we've had 80, 90 degree weather here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to kind of chill out with Sweden. So Sweden is a long mountainous country in the northernmost reaches of Europe. And at the very top, it's like Arctic weather up there, super cold winters. And then as you go down, you can actually have some nice warm days in the summer in Sweden. But the scenery is just gorgeous. The food I tried this week was a combination of sentimental memory and adventure for something that I've never even tried before. So the sentimental memory were the Swedish meatballs. And it's funny because I've never made Swedish meatballs before, even though I love them. When I was growing up in Luxembourg, the Swedish mothers in our high school would make it for our school lunches, and I would always bring extra money to eat the Swedish meatballs, like a double portion, because it was that good. And it's just so different from Italian meatballs. This is served with a cream gravy, and there's lingonberries, which are like a sweet, creamy, and then the meat, which has a little bit of nutmeg in it, which you wouldn't even notice if you didn't know it was in there, but it makes the flavor so wonderful and round. So I was really excited to try these since I'd had these wonderful memories of them all these years, and I wasn't disappointed. And even better, I think I made some really great memories with Mr. Picky and Ava, because they both gobbled it up. Our friends Alex and her mom came over, who are Swedish, and they actually asked for the recipe. So if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. They said most of the time they just wing it, and they have different results every time, and so this was a recipe they felt like they could tell their friends to use as well. Now for the real challenge this week, the Swedish princess cake. This is something I was so scared to make, but I knew I had to try it because it is such an icon of Swedish food. Even if you go to IKEA, you can pick up a mini Swedish princess cake there to try, which some people might suggest is easier than going to the trouble to make it yourself. But I asked you on Facebook, facebook.com/globaltableadventure, what you thought, if I should make an easy version or the real deal, and so many of you wanted me to show how this cake is really made. So I really worked hard to figure out how to do it, and it's not easy because number one, there's a lot of bad recipes out there. Number two, it requires a certain amount of skill, which I really didn't have at first, and so I learned a lot of tips and tricks along the way to help you make it if you do decide to tackle it at home. One of the things was marzipan. So this is what marzipan looks like, and it's made with almonds and sugar, and it's very malleable, a little bit like Play-Doh. And one of the things you need to do is color it green. Seems like no big deal unless you use liquid food coloring. Then you get this sort of goopy, wet mess. So what I would recommend are these little Wilton coloring pastes, which are thick, kind of like a gel, and so they don't dilute the actual marzipan, so it doesn't get sticky, which is really, really nice. And you put a little bit of that into your marzipan, and you make a dark color that you think might be a few shades darker than what you want to use. And once it's really blended into like maybe a ball this size, then you take this and you blend it into your other. And these kinds of little tricks are things that you wouldn't think of on your own, but really make the cake making process so much easier and so much, this is just such a smooth color because I use that technique. So I really sought out these sort of things from my friend who's Swedish, and from different cooks around the country and world who have really embarked on some great Swedish cooking. So hopefully that'll help you. At the end of the day, I rolled out that marzipan to dome over this gorgeous Swedish princess cake, and the marzipan had been rolled out too thin, number one, and you could see the cake through it. It was so thin it was cracking. So I had to take a deep breath, run to the store, get more marzipan, knead more color into it, roll it out again, and instead of peeling off the cracked and bubbling layer of marzipan, I actually added the second one over the top of it, which was a great idea because anywhere I had little cracks, it was really camouflaged with the green that was underneath it, so that was cool. All in all, this was a really big challenge for me, and I think I put it together in a way that came out as easily as it could while still remaining true to the original recipe. So I hope you'll try it and have some fun with your family and make this cake. The lesson this week is if you're going to do a really complicated recipe like the Swedish princess cake, make sure your other dishes are as easy as possible. So my Swedish meatballs, that was a no-brainer. Just mash everything together, roll up those balls. You can even do it hours and hours ahead of time and then refrigerate them before you fry them in butter. Yum. And then have a friend maybe bring another dish. So I was so busy with the cake, I didn't have time to do anything but the meatballs and the cake. So I had my friend Alex bring over a Swedish cucumber salad, which was so good. And it really just took the pressure off of me as the hostess to have to come up with all three things. So give yourself a break if you are going to tackle something really big and go easy on the other dishes. So until next time, happy stovetop travels from our global table adventure to yours.